Okay, so it seems most people are now back into the room, so we can proceed. Then I would like, with big pleasure, to introduce you to Dr. Ruan Slabbert. He's a medical scientist here at the faculty, and all of our scientists, and also from other universities, we are using the central facility to have our sequencing done, and they offer really a good service. So thank you for sharing your time with us and your knowledge. And I think it is good for us to listen to you and for the doctors here to know that many times we send sequencing to you, and the results that they see in the end in the report might as well come from your laboratory here. So thank you.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will not be talking about sequencing, next generation sequencing or generating data, but I will talk today about something that's very close to my heart, namely ancient dead things. So I will tell you more about how our ancient ancestors can teach us more about health issues in our modern society. And you will therefore see that there is nothing new under the sun. So I will try to focus on the pests and diseases in ancient human populations and how these are linked to either lifestyle or genetics. So, what is this nature versus nurture debate? It's a very complex issue, so I will only give you a very short definition. So the short definition is that this is a debate about the relative importance of an individual's genetic potential versus the environmental pressures that we experience in determining our physical and behavioral traits. So I will talk about how, in studying the lives and the deaths of our ancient ancestors, we can understand more on how health can be influenced by both the nature and nurture. I will give specific case studies from ancient times and also add a small twist in our view of nature versus nurture. So where do we get all our samples from? There are thousands and thousands of artificially and naturally mummified, preserved remains of humans found all over the world. We will collectively call them mummies. But just as additional information, true mummies are human remains that were preserved via human activity, and there's also an involvement of rituals and religion. The rest are all called dead people. So, if we look at the world map, you can see that there's mummies all over the world, including the royal mummies from ancient Egypt, which is the best known of all. You also get the Alouettes from North America, the Incas and Chinchorro from South America, various Chinese mummies, and also the Guanxi in Europe. And yes, we also have naturally mummified human remains in South Africa as well. They most recently found one on the border between Zimbabwe and South Africa. So, every single mummy has a story to tell and is therefore an absolute treasure trove of scientific and cultural information. So let us start our journey in ancient South America in the time of the Incan Empire. I will discuss the very itchy subject of the head lice. So the ancient Incan herders and farmers were absolutely infested with these vermin. Interestingly enough, they didn't actually mind their visitors, because hundreds of lice and nits were found on Incan mummies that are studied today. So why is this the case? So for the Incas, their hair were a symbol, a status symbol. The thicker the hair, the higher you are up in society. They did groom themselves, but during the early and the middle periods of the Incan Empire, the combs weren't very useful in removing the nits and the lice from the hair. But according to archaeological records, this situation changed in the late period of the Incan Empire, when nit densities became very much less. So why would this be? Well, easy. They became better at making combs. The teeth of the combs were put much closer together, and thus it was able to remove your nits and lice much more effectively from the hair. So this case study is a very good example on how humans were able to control the environment by using their innate ability to learn and apply their knowledge to invent and improve their living conditions. Then our second case study comes from ancient Nubia, which is today modern Sudan. The University of Manchester studied a number of ancient skulls that they collected during their various field trips, and within this cohort of skulls they found something very interesting, namely an individual with a cleft palate which dated from about 400 AD. Now what was unusual about this was the fact that this person survived to adulthood. Now in antiquity it was very rare for people to survive to adulthood because of certain nutritional difficulties, as some of you might well imagine. So the fact that this person reached adulthood is therefore a testament of the care given to him by his community. So this is an excellent example of where the defect that is caused by a possible genetic effect are counteracted by a nurturing and caring environment and human compassion. Unfortunately, I could not get the actual picture of the skull. It is not available. So for our next destination, we move to ancient Russia. Now, in terms of the research on mummies and old stuff, we are discovering more and more information from these ancient mummies, due in some instances because the imaging technology that are available are becoming very, very powerful. So by using some of these new technologies, researchers were able to diagnose the oldest case of cancer in a 2,700-year-old Scythian king that was found in Russia. They found that he suffered from prostate cancer, and there are also some examples that was found in ancient Egypt of male mummies that also suffered from prostate cancer. And this is just an example of some of the published images of the cancer. So even though cancer cases are rarely seen in ancient samples, many researchers believe that it is not as a modern condition as we would think. For example, the ancients were also exposed to various carcinogens, just as we are today. These would have included the soot from burning fires for either heating your home or cooking your food. If you would imagine, they have a very small living environment, so it's easily filled with all the smoke from the fire. And another potential source would have been, for example, the bitumen that they used to waterproof their ships. This is a picture where they depict the making of a boat in ancient Egypt. So they heated the bitumen prior to applying it to your boat, and the vapors that was caused by heating the bitumen could have caused all kinds of respiratory diseases and other problems. So we must remember that our ancestors did not live in pristine organic conditions, and the environment were just as likely to cause diseases such as cancer as our modern one that is filled with McDonald's and air pollution. So for our final case study, we will jump all around the world. So in a recent study published in 2013 and also earlier in 2011, a group studied 137 mummies from 5 different geographical regions and cultural backgrounds and periods. This whole study spanned across a time period of 4,000 years and included regions such as Egypt, the Americas, and also Europe. So the study found that humans have been suffering from heart diseases for millennia. In this CT scan, they indicate, this was a published image, the calcification of the arteries. So based on the data, the results suggested that arteriosclerosis may be independent of diet, lifestyle, or environment. They say this because the lifestyles of the study cohort range from urban populations, like in Egypt, or hunter-gatherer populations, like in the Americas. And they also said that the diet was usually considered as being healthy, since it included fish oils and was also devoid of processed sugars and dairy products. So it seems that this disease is most likely linked to old age, as more than half of the study cohort was older than 40 years of age, as shown in the graph that was also published in their study. So this is a case, this case is an example where our genome has a predisposition for possibly developing heart diseases in our later years with little influence from our environment or our lifestyle. But this does not mean that we should let ourselves go. We are still responsible for our own health and well-being because we do not understand all the mechanisms that is involved in disease. So just keep that in mind. So to summarize my talk, our ancestors tell us that we can do something to better our lives by using good sense and our knowledge and our experience. There are also many instances where we can overcome our genetic predisposition to disease by changing our lifestyles or our environmental factors. But there are also examples where our environmental circumstances can do little to change what was already encoded in our genomes. So ladies and gentlemen, there's absolutely nothing new under the sun. Humans have been stalked by diseases for generations. Our times might have changed, but the face of our tormentor has stayed the same. Thank you very much.